People go to restaurants for food, comfort, and peace. But what happened on a quiet Monday afternoon at Agric Restaurant in Abuja was something no one expected. It all started with a hungry old woman and ended with a moment that would change how everyone looked at her. It was just another normal day. The restaurant was busy but peaceful. Soft music played in the background. Waiters in neat uniforms moved between tables, smiling and carrying plates. Customers sat with their families talking and laughing while enjoying their meals. Expensive perfumes filled the air. Mixing with the smell of fried rice and pepper soup, nothing seemed unusual, but then the front door opened. At first, no one paid attention. It was slow, quiet. But as people turned to look, the room slowly changed. A few eyebrows were raised. Forks paused midair. A small hush passed through the room. An old woman had entered. Her name was Teresa. She looked weak and tired. Her wrapper was faded. Her blouse had a small tear at the shoulder. Her feet were dusty. She had no shoes. In her hand was a small black nylon bag, held close to her chest like it was her only treasure. Her back was bent, her legs thin, and her hands shook slightly as she walked forward. Two waiters standing near the counter noticed her. Who let her in? One whispered, "I don't know." "Maybe she came to beg." The other replied quietly. Teresa didn't look around. She didn't speak to anyone. She walked slowly, step by step, straight toward the front counter where the manager stood. Some customers looked annoyed. Others looked confused. A woman in a fancy dress leaned toward her husband and said in a low voice, "Why is she here? This is not a place for people like her." Teresa finally reached the counter, the man standing behind. It was Mr. Apollo, the restaurant manager. He was tall and serious-looking, dressed in a clean white shirt and navy trousers. His arms were folded. His expression was cold. Teresa looked up at him and said softly, "Please, sir. I am sorry to disturb you. I haven't eaten since yesterday. I am not asking for much. Just any leftover food. There is any?" For a few seconds, no one said a word. A young man sitting near the counter laughed quietly. Someone else took out their phone to record. Teresa kept standing there. Her face was calm, but her eyes looked tired. Mr. Apollo looked at her from head to toe. He didn't smile. He didn't ask her to sit. He didn't ask her name. Instead, he laughed. It was not a kind laugh. It was dry and proud. He leaned forward and said loudly, "Old woman, did you lose your way? This is a restaurant, not a dustbin." Gasps came from some tables. Few people shook their heads. Others stayed quiet, watching. Teresa stood still. Her lips opened slightly, but no words came out. She didn't cry. She didn't shout. She only held her bag tighter and looked down. Apollo raised his voice again, making sure everyone could hear. "We don't give food to people like you. Go beg outside." A waiter near him covered his mouth, trying not to laugh. Another looked away, uncomfortable. Teresa opened her mouth once more. Her voice was weak but steady. "Please, even if it's just bones. I'm not here to cause trouble." Apollo waved his hand like he was chasing away a fly. "Go away, Mama. You're scaring my customers." Teresa looked down. Her legs felt weak, her stomach hurt from hunger, but her feet stayed still. She didn't leave. In the far corner of the restaurant, a young woman sat watching everything. Her name was Jasmine. She wore a beautiful gold dress and had clean brown heels on her feet. Her nails were neatly painted. She had just returned to Nigeria from abroad, where she worked as a medical doctor. She came to this restaurant for a quiet lunch, but hadn't touched her food. Her eyes were locked on Teresa. Something about the old woman made her chest feel tight. She couldn't understand it at first. But there was something familiar about her. Then Jasmine noticed the necklace. It was old, with a round, dull pendant hanging on a thin chain. It looked simple, but Jasmine knew it. She had seen it before. Her hand shook slightly as she opened her purse and took out her phone. She zoomed in on the necklace. Yes, It was the same necklace her best friend Rosalind used to wear back in school. They were like sisters, laughing, studying, sharing secrets. Jasmine hadn't seen Rosalind in years, but she could never forget that necklace. She looked up again at Teresa. Her heart raced. Could this be Rosalind's mother? She whispered to herself. More than just pity filled Jasmine's heart now. This was personal. She could no longer sit and watch. She stood up. The sound of her heels made people turn. She walked toward the counter. Apollo saw her coming and frowned. She reached Teresa's side, looked straight at Apollo, and said, "Did I just hear you insult this woman because she's hungry?" Apollo tried to speak, but Jasmine didn't wait. "And that gives you the right to speak to her like trash." People began to look down. Others put down their forks. One woman whispered, "She's right." Jasmine raised her voice. "If this was your mother, would you let someone talk to her like that?" The restaurant went quiet, and in that silence, everything began to change. Everyone in the restaurant was silent. No music, no talking, no laughter. Just the sound of a tired old woman standing still and a young woman standing beside her with fire in her voice. People had come to eat food, but they were now watching a story unfold, one that would soon touch their hearts forever. Jasmine looked at the restaurant manager. Apollo and said again, "If this woman was your mother, would you let someone speak to her like this?" Apollo did not answer. He looked around and saw that many customers were staring at him. Some looked angry, others looked ashamed. One man slowly stood and said, "She is right. We should not treat people like this." Another woman added, "That could be my grandmother." Jasmine turned back to Teresa. She placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Teresa looked up, confused. Her lips moved, but no words came out. Jasmine spoke softly. "Ma, please, what is your name?" The old woman said in a quiet voice, "Teresa." Jasmine's heart beat faster. Do you know anyone named Rosalind?" Teresa's hands trembled. She looked shocked. "Rosalind, it's my daughter." Jasmine's eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath and whispered, "Rosalind was my best friend. In school, we were like sisters." Teresa's eyes opened. Wider, she looked at Jasmine closely. "You're Jasmine." Jasmine nodded slowly. Teresa covered her mouth and began to cry softly. The people around them couldn't believe what they were seeing. A hungry old woman who was insulted just moments ago was now holding hands with a young, well-dressed doctor who called her the mother of her lost best friend. Jasmine spoke again, this time louder for everyone to hear. "This woman, daughter, was like a sister to me. She took care of me when I was sick. We used to dream about the future. But after school, we lost contact. I didn't know what happened to Rosalind. Now I do." She turned to Apollo. "This woman is not trash. She's someone's mother. She's family to me." Apollo had no words. He looked down. The waiters who had laughed earlier now stood still, unable to meet anyone's eyes. Jasmine turned to Teresa again. "Come, Mama, you're not staying here like this." She gently helped Teresa walk to her table in the corner. People moved out of the way without being told. Some even clapped softly. Others wiped tears from their eyes. Jasmine sat Teresa down, gave her water, and called a waiter. "Bring her the best food on the menu, and I'm paying for it." The waiter nodded and ran quickly. As Teresa waited, Jasmine held her hand and asked softly, "Mama, where is Rosalind? I haven't seen her in years." Teresa's eyes became wet again. "She passed away 3 years ago. After a long sickness, we had no money. I sold everything. I've been alone ever since." Jasmine felt a deep pain in her chest. She squeezed Teresa's hand tighter. "I'm sorry, Mama. I didn't know. But from now on, you're not alone." People around them heard the story. Some began to offer help. A woman gave Teresa a pair of slippers. A man handed Jasmine an envelope and said, "For her, please." One by one, people began to show kindness. Some who laughed before now looked embarrassed. Apollo slowly walked out of the counter area and came to Jasmine and Teresa. He cleared his throat. I, I'm sorry, Ma, he said to Teresa. I spoke without respect. I was wrong. Teresa looked at him with tired eyes but gave a slow nod. May God forgive you. Apollo turned and faced the restaurant. Let this be a lesson to all of us, he said. We judge too fast. We forget that anyone rich or poor has a story. Later that day, Jasmine took Teresa to her home. She gave her a warm bath, clean clothes, and a proper bed to sleep in. That night, Teresa had her first peaceful sleep in many years. Days passed. Then weeks. Jasmine took Teresa for a health checkup. She helped her find a place to stay. She introduced her to friends and made sure she never went hungry again. The news of what happened at Haven spread across the city. People talked about the old woman, the necklace, and the doctor who stood up. Some called it a miracle. Others called it a reminder from heaven. But for Jasmine, it was simple. I only did what was right, she told a reporter later. No one deserves to be treated like garbage. That woman gave birth to someone who changed my life. Now it's my turn to honor her. And as for Teresa, every time she looked at Jasmine, her heart felt full. She had lost a daughter but had found a second one.